The origins of this next story I'm about to tell you lie in an incredibly sharp knife, the stones from Chesapeake Beach, and the men who know how to skin stones.
A while ago I began to wonder what would happen if I came up with a special painting and then showed it to a talented writer to see what he could come up with. This is the painting. And this is the writer.
When I first saw this painting, I was immediately drawn to the knife and the two pebbles. The knife reminded me of my father, who used to sharpen his knife on a whetstone, and he used to test its sharpness by shaving his arms until his arm grew bald. And the stones reminded me of those marvellous pebbles you can pick up on Chesapeake Beach, just to the west of Portland, and a myth I heard there once about the stone skinners of Portland and how they used to skin stones. Some come to the window with empty hands. Some stand in the rain and let it wash them down. Some just stand, say nothing, and you'd never know what brought them there. A bus, a van, a bicycle, the long thumb, Shank's pony, the weather, a vague thought, a burning desire, a bet, a dare. They're all there at different times. Sometimes the window's open. Most times it's closed against the onshore wind. All the time it frames the view of the beach. That white banana, full of stone, graded according to size, shining in the window's eye. It's just a window. The glass moves in the wind. Rain stains it now and then. Folk look through it both ways. For all it's seen, it says nothing. Perhaps it's gone past caring. More likely it's taken the oath. And because it's glass, it can't take the oath anywhere. The oath has to stay relevant by the window where the oath was sworn. Looking inward to the paintings on the wall, the fireplace, the stuttering clock, the slumbering furniture, looking outwards to the swans, the swan herd, the untidy sea, the long sweep of the fragile shore. There's a black figure on the beach, a speck from the window, which if you watched out from, you would see the speck bend and shuffle, moving like a weak magnet back towards the iron frame of the window, moving as if drawn in a cartoon that was black and white. Listen, there's a telltale chink, the high-frequency sound of chalk on slate. The teacher, with his back to the class, talking to the blackboard, is a phenomenon peculiar to Portland. He drones like a bee, stunned, that has hit the window more than once in the hot, stale air of the classroom. Mythological memories masquerading as fact. The class's faces are stone white, all stone white, and not one of them moves as the voice washes over them like a grey mist. No evidence of skins or the finished product. He spins back to face the class, his skin shiny white, his eyes alight with an inner fury. The black speck moves towards the window, a sack of his stones slung over one shoulder. A flight of swans lift off from the pewter lake. The grey mirror holds them as if it would hold them forever and never let them go, even when they are aloft. But the thrum and the thrust of their wings whooms and has them clear. They turn in formation and hurt the eye as their whiteness matches the whiteness of the sky, and they are lost to sight. The teacher snaps the chalk in two. "Stone skinners do not exist," he snarls. "Nor have they ever existed." And he chants silently to the silent class what he has written in white chalk on the black board. "Nil lapideus exavarum, nil lapideus exavarum, nil lapideus exavarum, nil lapideus exavarum," till he has become the bee that drones in the hot, stale air of the classroom. Outside, there is Chinese in the air, all sing-song and yin-yang. The ex-emperor's harem is visiting. Visiting what? The black speck? The chanting teacher? The swan herd? The parliament of swans? The black speck resolves itself into a man whose shadow stands before the window, cooling the glass. Apart from his eyes, his features are anonymous. "I'm back," he rumbles, his voice a rumour of thunder that coaxes the window fully open. "The stones?" the woman asks. "Need skinning." The pane trembles slightly. "But the Chinese?" "I know. They're here." "Did the boy not tell you?" "It's not the boy. It's that man." "The teacher?" "The teacher." "Oh. Don't worry. I'll get them done." "You will?" "It's a full moon." "What'll I tell the Chinese?" "Tomorrow." The man turns with a sack of stones over his shoulder and walks back to become a black speck on the beach again, until he becomes a smudge at the edge of sight. And like the electric flight of swans, he is gone from view too. As if on cue, the Chinese arrive at the window, all 17 of them, all bowing and smiling at the window, which appeared to smile back at them, there being no light inside today. "We have come," the spokesperson announced. "I'd noticed," the woman said. You have what we've come for?" "The stone skinner says tomorrow." "We said we would collect it today." "The stone skinner says tomorrow." The Chinese all talk at once. The window is closed, and even though the normal courtesies have not been observed, the Chinese know they must return tomorrow. The ex-emperor's harem have waited long for the chance of pure stone skin that they will fashion into tiny drums made out of porcelain, on which to whisper one question, and then allow the drum to answer in its own tongue. One more night will not make that much difference. They splinter into small groups that edge away slowly from the window, like rainwater drying on their glass, and suddenly they're gone. We cannot follow the woman because we know nothing of her in this story. In this story, she's just a voice. We can follow the black speck on the beach, or the 17 different Chinese moving away at the rate of boredom from the window, the beach, the swans, and the black speck. In the classroom, the chanting has stopped. The only sound, the lift of chalk and its slight fall into the palm of the teacher's hand. He feels that he has beaten the class. At long last, he asks them, "Well?" You would need a very long ruler to measure that silence. So it measures itself, and the boy who sits by himself at the front of the class raises his hand slowly, and for a comical moment it looks as if the teacher, throwing the chalk into his palm of his hand, is working the arm of the boy into its upright stance. "Well?" "Please, sir, can we open a window, please, sir?" The teacher frowns. It is not the question he was looking for. It is not the answer to his total control of the class. It is hot in the classroom, unbearably hot. "The window?" he stalls. "Yes, sir, it's hot, and the window let the breeze in, sir." "Can we open the window?" "Yes, sir, it's hot, sir. You look hot, sir." The teacher is aware of the moment slipping away from him. He nearly had them, and this boy ruined it. "What's your name, boy? Who's your father? What's he do? And none of that nonsense about skinning stones." The teacher's finger is like a magic wand pointing at the boy, daring him to talk. "Baker, sir. I'm an orphan, sir. The teacher's eyes are closed. Baker, the orphan, of course. It would be him. Baker, we are not opening the window. The teacher moves to the huge window and looks out, but he can't see anything. Everything is internal. We have a few minutes to the end of class. You will sit in silence and contemplate. Contemplate! He turns round and searches the classroom for any sign of disobedience. Anything. You will concentrate and contemplate. And here the magic wand of his finger points at the blackboard. Nil lapideus exevarum. Nil lapideus exevarum. When the bell finally brings the end of the class, they burst out of the room in a shapeless mass. The same poles of the magnet, fleeing the charged frame of the teacher. One does not quite make it. Baker, come here! The teacher intercepts him. Do you know what your father did before he died, Baker? Yes, sir. And? A stonemason, sir. Ah, that Baker. The teacher nods his head and closes his eyes again. When he opens them, the boy's gone. It was nonsense, of course. The Chinese weren't visiting the stone skinner. The stone skinner did not exist. It was a myth. He wanted to throw the chalk. He counted to 10 and put the chalk in the box with all the other broken bits. Dusted his hands, cleared the chalk, and looked out of the window again. The last of the children was just clearing the playground. There was Baker, headed for the beach. The beach and that black speck that the teacher had never managed to get close to. We can leave the teacher shaking his head. The shed was made out of driftwood, flotsam, jetsam, everything he'd been able to salvage from the shoreline. Nails, screws, rope, even the tar that caulked the roof and the walls of the shed. It stood out of the way of the wind and the worst of the weather, beached and bleached. And when he sat on the veranda, he looked like a shadow, not a black speck, not a definable figure of a man, more the absence of something there. Passers-by shuddered when they saw the shadow, usually out of the corner of their eyes, and they quickened their pace and hurried on by. He had few callers. Baker was one, and today Baker called as the black speck hefted the bag with the stones from his shoulder and opened them at his feet on the veranda. Chinese? Baker motioned towards the stones with his head. The black speck nodded, and Baker knew he would never be able to describe what the black speck looked like. He knew that he'd have to mention eyes and a spare voice that sounded like the rumble of distant thunder. Christ, he thought. If the black speck got angry and shouted, the sky'd fall in. Baker shuddered. How had he come to know the man as the black speck? That first night at the orphanage he had fetched up at the window's side. The woman had pointed out the figure in the distance on the beach. What, him? That black speck? The very same, said the woman, closing the window. He knew nothing about the black speck. He'd spent that night telling him his life story. The black speck still made him shudder from time to time, but he seemed to suffer the boy in silence. How long? Baker pointed at the stones spread out from the bag on the veranda. The black speck shrugged his shoulders. Thunder rumbled. 20, 30, 40. And Baker knew he meant years. And Baker remembered the adage, and he chanted it now. Take as long in the choosing as in the skinning. The black speck sat cross-legged on the veranda and turned each stone slowly. Baker imagined his own father would take as long before he committed chisel to marble, stone, or Portland. Baker counted 17 stones. More thunder. First, sharpen your knife. The black speck produced a whetstone that sparkled with schist, and he spat on the surface and drew out from an inner pocket a knife. Baker gasped. He'd seen the knife before, but its presence still thrilled him. It saddened him too. He would leave soon. The black speck insisted upon it. Baker had never seen the actual skinning, only the before and after effects. The delicate skins whispering in just a rumour of wind. The raw stone hardening. "I'll be going then," said Baker. There was no reply. As he trudged past the window, a familiar squeal scratched at his ears. "Vixen," said the teacher, lifting his eyes up from his supper. "An owl!" Baker walked on, smiling. The Chinese were gone the next day. The teacher found a ring of 17 stones in the playground. He paraded the whole school before the stones, searched every face for a sign. Not the usual signs about wet beds or secret sweetie stores or coins taken from mother's purse. He was after a 17-stone circle sign. There were none. "Baker!" he called the boy to the front of the class. "What do you know about all this?" "All what, sir?" "These stones, this circle." His magic wand of a finger pointed and seemed to scorch the ground around the stone circle. Baker was silent for a while. The teacher knew how to use silence. It was a favourite weapon of his when fighting for the truth. Baker knew only the truth and how to say it. "They're skinned stones, sir. The stone skinner leaves them there as a token of hope for the future." "How many times do I have to tell you?" the teacher shouts and kicks at the stones. One flies into the air. "There's no such thing as stone skinning." The stone, matte coloured, adjusts in its flight and takes out the central pane of the large window of the classroom. The teacher rests his head in his hands. The classroom is not stuffy that day. There was no one waiting at the window. A flight of swans lit up the lake as they landed. There was a black speck on the beach. It was lifting wood into a salvaged bag. A stone skin drum sounds like the wind at your ear from the future. If you put your lips to the skin and breathe out your question, it will always answer truthfully. 17 ex-Emperor's harem members form a circle in the hall of all futures. The tiny stone skin drums hum in anticipation.